Hi everyone, this is Sirisha, Assistant Professor, Department of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science in Annamacharya University. Today I am going to explain interface and its variables and methods. Why we are using interface and interface variables and interface method, we can see this video. First, we can see what is interface. Interface. Interface is a non-primitive type and interface is the intermediate between service provider and user program. We can create interface by using interface keyword. In interface, variables are by defaultly public, static, final. In interface, methods are by defaultly public and abstract. Interface will allow to create only variables and methods. In interface will not allow to create constructors, blocks, non-static data members. To implementing interface, Java provides implements keyword. Dotted arrow is a symbol of implements keyword. Interface cannot be a subtype for any class including object class. Here object class is nothing but supermost class of the every Java program. Object is not parent type for interface. For interface method, that implementing subclass will provide detailed implementation. Otherwise, implement subclass should be abstract. In interface, we cannot provide the implementation for interface methods. In that time, we can provide we can provide the implementation for implementation methods by implementing in subclass. A class can implement multiple interfaces at the same time. When a class extending a class and implementing an interface at the same time, first we have to write extends keyword and after that implements keyword. At the same time, when class is try to extend the class and implementing the interface, in that time first we have to extend the class, otherwise we have to implement the interface. Here, by using interface, we can achieve fully abstraction. Abstraction is nothing but hiding the implementation. In that implementation, in hiding implementation, we have to use this interface concept. By using interface, we can hide the implementation. This is the small example for interface. Here A is a interface name. Here interface is a keyword is used to declare the interface. Here void M1. It is a interface abstract method. Abstract methods are always ended with semicolon. We cannot provide the implementation for abstract methods. For this method, we can provide the implementation in implementing the subclass. Here B is a class. It implements the interface A. By overriding the interface method, we can provide the implementation for this method. Here the new implementation is M1 of B. The public static void main string was. This is the main method signature. We know that. Here we can create the object for this B class. We cannot provide the object for interface. Here B equals to new B. Here B is created for class B and B dot M1. M1 method is calling using B class object. Whenever we call the M1 method using B object, in that time compiler check in M1 method and printing the where we can provide the implementation. That implementation was is printed M1 method of B. This is the small example for interface. Next, we have to see interface variables. In interface, variables are by defaultly public, static, and final. All interface variables are constant because by default it makes it as final. Public variable. Interface variables are accessible from anywhere because interface variables using interface name. Syntax for accessing the static interface variables. Interface name dot variable name. We cannot access the static variables directly in interface. We can access these static variables by using interface name. Final variables. Once we are declaring a interface variables or as final, we cannot change that variable value because all final variables are constant values. This is a small example for your interface variables. Here, variables A is the name of the interface. Here, int A equals to 10. In static double D equals to 30. Here, D variable is a static variable. Which variables are declared using static keyword? Those variables are called as static variables. Here, by default, it make it as the interface make it as a variables public, static, and final. So these values are constant values because it make it as final also. Public class interface variables is the class name and it implements the variables. This is the main method, and inside main method we can create the object for interface variables. Here I is the object. We can print the static variables using interface name, otherwise object name. Here we are printing the static variable using interface variables class object I dot hit. Here the output is 10 because A equals to 10. Here we are printing the variable public variable, not static variable. Okay. Here I dot A equals to 30. Here we are trying to change the A variable value. But here not in this time we will get the compile time error because once we declare the variables in interface that all variables are constant variables because it by default make it as final variable. So we will get the compile time error. We cannot change those variables in interface. We can't change because whenever we declare in the interface variables by default it will make it as public, static, and final. Here a variable also a one final variable. And next we can access the static variables using interface name or implemented subclass object. Here accessing static variables by using object, that is interface variables class object I dot D. Here the output is 30. System.out.println accessing static variables by using interface name. Here the interface name is variables and the variable name is D. Variables dot D. Here the output also 30. This is the small example for interface variables. Once we declare the interface variable, by default it will make it as that variable public, static, final. And next, interface methods. Interface allow to create some methods. They are public and abstract methods, default methods, static methods, private methods. Public methods we can access anywhere, and abstract methods we cannot provide the implementation in interface. We can provide the abstract methods for implementation in implementing the subclass. Here the default methods. Till JDK7, interface allowed only public and abstract methods. From JDK8, interface allowed to the default methods with new implementation. Here see this. Till JDK7, interface allowed only public and abstract methods only. From JDK8, interface allows non-static methods with implementation called default methods. In interface, default methods must be declared by using default keyword. Here, default is a keyword, not non-access modifier. Default methods are allowed only in interface. Overriding default methods in implemented subclass is not mandatory. Default is a keyword and not a non-access modifier. By overriding the default methods in subclass, it's not mandatory to provide the new implementation for default methods in implemented subclass. Why default methods are introduced means default methods are introduced to add a new implementation to the interface without interrupting existing implementation. Next, static methods. From middle of the JDK8, interface allowed to create static methods. Interface static methods are called by using interface name. Without interface name, we cannot call the static methods. Next, from JDK8, this is the 9. From JDK9, interface started allows to create private methods. Here, this is the small example for interface methods. This is void number. This is the public method, and here we can provide the implementation. This is the static method M2. Which methods are declared using private variable? Those methods are called as static variables. This is the private methods. Which methods are declared using private method, private keyword? Those methods are called as private methods. And also, which methods are declared using default keyword? Those methods are called as default methods. And next, multiple inheritance issues. In multiple inheritance, multiple classes are extending, multiple child classes are extending multiple parents at the same time. In that, we cannot extend the multiple parent classes at the same time. This is the one of the issue in multiple inheritance. We cannot achieve multiple inheritance using inheritance concept. So in inheritance, we can achieve the multiple inheritance because at the same one child, one class implements number of interfaces at the same time. That's why we can achieve the multiple inheritance in interface. See this. We know that we cannot achieve multiple inheritance by using inheritance because in multiple inheritance, one child class extends two parent classes at the same time. The main issue of achieving multiple inheritance is diamond property, combination of hierarchical inheritance and multiple inheritance. We can achieve multiple inheritance by using interface because in interface, one class implements number of interfaces at the same time. In interface, one class implements number of interfaces at the same time. So that's why we can achieve the multiple inheritance using interface